hold on. Okay. Just a moment while we all right. So here are our ground rules, as we like to say, or just some friendly reminders. When we have these calls, sometimes we get a lot of feedback, so I'd like to, if everyone could, call in from the conference number, and then that way we don't have any feedback with computers, etc. However, I am asking if you could keep your phone or computer microphone muted until you are ready to speak or ask questions. That would be great. Also, I did say this earlier, but not everyone was on. Please don't place your phone on hold, as we will hear hold music. So if you have a conversation you need to have or an emergency, feel free to hang up and then dial back in when you are available. Also, my colleague Paula Burns is managing our chat feature, and she will be asking people questions or making comments throughout the video. We'd love it if you'd share your name and the state that you're from so we know who's with us via the chat feature. We will have Larry Dabian on today from Colorado. My esteemed colleague Angela Braggs will be on the call today also, presenting something very exciting. And then we will have a closing call to action today. So again, this is Sean Peterson. I'm really glad that everyone is here, and let's get started. The first thing I wanted to let everybody know that we have a great new person on our team here. He's been with us about 6 months now. His name is Miles Tridle. And Miles actually is working with us to keep our website updated, the CSTP website on Iowa State University. And so you will be able to find our call recordings. You'll be able to find our conference call agendas. Anything that we talk about in the meeting will be out here on our conference call. Also, you'll notice there's a newsletter archive. We just sent our last newsletter out, so it's not in the archive yet, but you should have that in your email. And here is what the top of the newsletter looks like. It went to press on January 28th, 2020. My colleagues Jillian and Paula actually worked on our newsletter for us, and it's a fabulous newsletter. If you haven't seen the newsletter, check your junk mail. Mine actually went to my junk mail, so you can go in and have a setting that tells the system that our newsletter provider actually isn't junk, and then you can get the newsletter, or you can find it later in our archive. If you do want to contribute, we would love to have you contribute. So we are looking for presenters or contributors to our newsletters in the future. You can contact Paula Burns or Jillian Allman for submission ideas, and we really look forward to hearing from you and the different topics that you might like to share for us with our newsletter. We have a really great article in the newsletter that was presented from one of the judges of the tribal community, and it's all about change and how to move through change. And so I really recommend that you guys go out and read the newsletter. It really has some great articles this time, and I can't say enough about the content. So Jillian and Paula, thank you very much. And then, of course, our contributors as well. And it looks like Paula has shared the link to the archive for us. So I just want to provide you with a little training tip. Did you know that the average human attention span in the year 2000 was 12 seconds? Fast forward to 2015, which is the latest data we have, the average human time span is 8 seconds. And as you can see, our goldfish that we might have at our home actually have a 9-second attention span. So goldfish have a better attention span than we humans do here in the year 2015. And I bet you our attention span is even less than that. I have to chuckle. These days with social media, et cetera. So, and our cell phones, I mean, who wouldn't, I call it my walking computer in my hand, my iPhone. So what does this mean to us when we're presenting training? We need to be clear in our messages. So when we're talking with someone in class or we're running a meeting, we want to be clear and concise. We want to keep our message short. We want to appeal to our learners' desires. Learners love to hear stories. So when we're providing training, build in a story, something that they can tie to the message, and they'll really enjoy that and remember our training or our meeting message when we do that. And use video. People love to watch videos. I don't know about you guys, but YouTube is so popular. My family, my husband and my daughter use YouTube to do things like, my husband's a car junkie, so he uses it to figure out how to fix a car. My daughter uses it to help with her geometry class. So people love to hear and use videos, and videos on average on the internet right now are 2.7 minutes. So people really want quick hits, and in our newsletter, as we can tie this back, and I'm going to mess this up, Paula, but Paula talked about micro learning and message boosts or something along those lines. But people want micro learning. They want quick, fast hits of learning. And so that's your training tip for our first quarter here in 2020. Next, Larry Davian from Colorado is joining us. He is the director of the Division of Child Support Services in the state of Colorado. So Larry, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share the information that you're going to share with us. I've actually covered and read the presentation several times. It's really a fascinating topic, and so I look forward to passing this over to Larry. It's just going to take a moment to bring up the slide. I will be running the slideshow for him due to some issues of the presenter not wanting to switch over to another person other than me. So today the software really likes me a lot. Hopefully you're picking up on my humor in that. All right, Larry, go ahead.
Good afternoon, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of the work we've been involved with in the Colorado Child Support Services program. I had an opportunity earlier this month to present along with folks from Wisconsin and North Carolina Child Support Program at the National Child Support Enforcement Association Policy Forum. And I was just really encouraged to hear the whole theme of the conference was engagement, putting policy into practice. And so, you know, that really was reinforced with the plenaries and the workshops. So it was very encouraging. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information. And what I want to share with you today is what work we've been involved with in terms of integrated service model for our child support services program. And I want to make really clear that this isn't to replace our core services, but rather to complement them. And that's really, I think, a key piece to be aware of. A little bit of background information. Colorado is county administered and state supervised. Next slide, please. So this is the why. This is, and I think with every child support program, this is important to have this level of understanding. We have done a lot of work in Colorado to get better at improving the consistency of monthly child support obligations for parents to pay it and for custodial parties to receive that. And through our data analysis, we've learned that we have about 90,000 parents in any given month that owe a monthly current support obligation. And every month, almost, every month going back several years, 1/3 of those families receive zero toward that child support obligation. So that's the why why we have put so much energy and attention into that. And what's really interesting is the unemployment rate nationally.
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember.
In Colorado, it's 2.5%. So with such a high or low unemployment rate, why is it we're in such low levels of compliance? And what I feel is that the enforcement remedies that the child support program has are incredible, and it has done great to motivate the majority of parents with child support obligations to pay their child support. But if someone lacks the ability, doesn't have a job, is facing barriers, all the enforced remedies in the world is not going to magically turn the switch for that person to be able to pay their child support. So that's the why of why we've really been involved with working on this for several years. Next slide, please. This is some data from the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement, and this data is available to every state in the country. And we've broken down the percent of child support collected by class of the case. So our current TANF cases, we collect on average 36% of the total amount due, and the national average is 35%. So we're a little bit better than the national average. The former TANF cases, we see a little bit of an improvement up to 59%, national average 57%, and never TANF 70%. So it's very obvious in looking at this that particularly on our low income families, our current TANF and former TANF, our existing model needs to be tweaked a bit so that we can hopefully increase the reliability of the payment of child support. Next slide, please. So this is a slide I love to share locally here in our state. And if we continue as the child support program to do the things the same way we've always done them, we're going to get the same results. So that's really been part of our messaging is let's look at what changes we can make to make a difference for those families that are currently not receiving the child support, and for the parents that owe that child support, give them the ability and connect them to the resources they need so that they can not only pay their support but better engage with their children. Next slide, please. For those of us that have been in the child support program a while, like myself, the child support program was initially created as a cost recovery program, and I think the model was an assumption that parents had a high desire to pay or low desire to pay and a high willingness to pay. That's kind of the historical model, and that's why I think we've received from Congress great authority to use all these enforced remedies, license suspension and income assignment and all of those types of things. But what about those parents that have a high desire to pay their support but a low ability to pay? What if we redesign the system nationally to create the ability for parents to be able to pay their support? And that's really what we're working on in Colorado as a complement to our core services. Next slide, please. A couple of years ago, we worked with a vendor to learn from a variety of stakeholders and customers about what would it take to receive more consistent child support. We call it the Colorado Consistent Payer Project, and we have a report. If anyone's interested in receiving that, I'd be happy to forward it to you. But we asked parents with child support obligations, we asked custodial parties that were hoping to receive child support payments, we asked child support professionals, we talked to judicial officers, attorneys, and there were some central themes that we learned from this that really is helping to drive our work. One of them is a sense of unfairness that many families feel, and the importance that we really incorporate the needs and abilities of both parents. And at least from the perspective of many of our parents with child support obligations, a sense that maybe we're a bit one-sided in terms of the caretaker that's owed the child support. Addressing individual family situations was another key takeaway that we learned from this work, and that a one-size-fits-all model doesn't work for everybody. We've received a lot of feedback about we need to improve on our communication. If your state is like ours, we have some forms that have been in place forever, and when you actually look at them, it's not really carrying forward a positive message, and way too much legalese. And then some feedback from parents in terms of helping to navigate the system. It's difficult enough for us in child support to understand it, let alone those folks that are participating in the project or in the program. Next slide, please. So because child support funding, the 66% typical reimbursement, does not allow for the types of work that we wanted to do in terms of getting parents connected to employment and other resources, we decided to submit budget requests to our legislature, and we attempted twice unsuccessfully, and in 2019 we were successful in requesting and being appropriated dollars, TANF block grant dollars, to fund some work over the next 4 years, beginning July of 19, and then for 4 years after that, to partner with our employment experts in our Employment and Benefits Division, and that's the agency that in Colorado oversees the TANF program. They've been very skilled for many years in terms of providing employment support for folks. But after 2 failed attempts, the 3rd attempt, we got approval from the legislature. And what we basically did in terms of making that sell is that there are a lot of families that could benefit from connecting them to the resources they need to be able to pay their child support. Next slide, please. And one thing I would encourage you to do, and I shared this at the NCF Policy Forum, is that if you're not aware in your state of the amount of TANF block grant reserve dollars that are available, it's probably worth finding out. In Colorado, it's many millions of dollars, and information I've received is that in the majority of states, there is a pretty good size amount of unspent TANF block grant dollars. So that could be a possibility for you, and I encourage you to have conversations in your own state. If there is a surplus, there might be some possibility of maybe using some of those dollars to fund the types of programs that we're working on here in Colorado. We were part of the national CSPED grant. We called it COPEP, Colorado Parent Employment Project, and that really was our first venture into providing employment services. And then I've included some data on this slide that talks about what we're currently doing with the Impacts program. What we're going to be doing is issuing a request for proposal to our county partners, county child support program partners, and community partners, and giving them the ability to submit proposals to get some of this block grant dollars over the next 4 years to pay for the types of services that they may not be able to do currently in their own county Department of Human Services. And like I said, we're about ready to issue that by the end of this month, early March, and then we'll be able to start with the actual program in a few months thereafter. Next slide, please. Okay, I can't ask you how many of you have heard about 2Gen, but I will just say that this idea with 2Gen transformation is to create opportunities for and addressing the needs of both children and adults in their lives together. And if you're interested in learning more about this, the Aspen Institute is an entity that has done tremendous work in terms of fostering this concept, not only in child support, but in other human services programs. And if you Google Aspen Institute, you can get a lot of helpful information. And one of the things that we're aware of, and I'm sure you are as well, is that the child support program is one of the few programs that has the opportunity to work with both parents. The caretaker that the children are residing with could be a grandma, could be mom, could be dad, but also the parent with the child support obligation. So we are uniquely in a great position to implement some 2Gen concepts with our child support program. And what we've done is we've decided to approach this in a scientific way, is to conduct some studies, some experiments to test some models for how we might be able to implement this in our program. So we've worked with the University of Denver and also the Center for Policy Research to conduct this research. Next slide, please. All right, so I think there's a resource document that Sean made available to everyone that is a study basically of evaluation that we did in phase 1 of our 2Gen work, and it has to do with testing something called the Family Resource Assessment. And what we realized is we did not have a consistent way across the state to do an assessment of parents, ask them to self-disclose, answer some questions, and then take what we've learned from that and model 2Gen services to meet those needs. So This first phase of our 2Gen effort was to test the use of a family resource assessment that parents completed on their own or with the assistance of their child support worker. And then we tracked payment history over a decent period of time to see which factors that a parent self-disclosed actually had an impact in terms of their ability to pay child support. And what we learned is a parent who reported having a felony or misdemeanor conviction had a decreased likelihood of 86% of the time of paying their child support. That's pretty substantial. So if we are expecting parents with criminal records to be able to pay their child support, we need to be aware that that's a barrier. We need to connect parents to the resources, employment services, connect them to employers that actually will hire felons. So that was a key thing that we learned. We also learned that for every barrier to employment that a parent reported, the odds of paying decreased by 36%. That's very substantial. So one of those barriers could be a suspended driver's license. There could be a lot of other types of things. And then we also look, transportation is an issue that impacted an ability to pay. If someone had transportation issues, if they were in a rural community, had no way to get to an employer, that decreased the likelihood to pay by 68%. So very informative, and we took what we learned then to go to phase 2 of our 2Gen effort. Next slide, please. So what we did is we had 11 pilot counties in the state of Colorado. We had rural, we had metro counties in the Denver region, and we decided to test new approaches. So our pilot counties reached out to their community and to identify who are the community partners that could assist with parents that are facing different barriers. Maybe they need some help in terms of getting a parenting time agreement. Maybe they have substance abuse issues. Maybe they need assistance with purchasing work boots, those types of things. And in this intervention, we worked with 420 parents, 210 were served with the 2Gen model, and we made funds available to our county partners to pay up to $200 per participant to assist them. And we're currently finalizing some videos of what our parents have told us, but the response has been really, really unbelievable. So next slide, please. These are some quotes from our county child support folks that participated in our 2Gen effort. He wanted to pay. Now he'd be willing to call us if he lost his job. He thought he wouldn't be judged by that. He didn't realize how many potential partners we had in our community. And he comes to give me a check, but visits for half an hour because the child support program and the worker is really his only support in the program. So this has not only positively impacted families, it's impacted the perspectives of our child support professionals that have been part of this effort. So that's an important piece as well, is that I think many of our child support folks in Colorado have really adapted that belief that this is the right thing to do to complement our core services. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but we realized that counties are at different places in terms of being able to implement a 2Gen approach. So we kind of developed 3 different models, 3 different ideas. One, emerging, where a county may be just starting off and wants to know how what types of things they can do to help just get a 2Gen program off the ground. Coordinated, which maybe a county is a little further along, and then finally integrated. Regular use of assessment tools, formalized referral partnerships with community partners, courts are engaged, et cetera. So I can certainly provide more information if that would be helpful. Next slide, please. So this is a kind of a summary of how we've approached our work with parents to adapt our child support program to meet the needs of parents. So in 2013, you can see COPEP kicked off. That was our employment project. In 2015, we were one of the states that were involved with the Behavioral Intervention and Child Support Grant, and we learned some great information about how to modify our communication tools that could positively impact the collection of child support, the payment consistency of parents. We also, and this is something that I use every opportunity to kind of share, in April of 17, we implemented a full pass-through of current child support payments. So from April of 17 to the present time, we passed through the full amount of current support to TANF recipients. We've done zero payer call-a-thons where our county partners have reached out to parents. We also did something in July of 19 I wanted to share with you. When we first implemented credit reporting, we decided to include collection accounts. And the feedback we've received from so many of our parents is that that really had a negative impact on them. Even if they're currently paying their child support, it's hard for them to recover from having collection accounts. So we made a decision in 2019 to wipe the slate clean and start over and not report collection accounts. So those are just a few of the things that we've been doing to try to fully integrate our approach. The other thing that we've just started in January, we're part of the OCSE digital marketing grant, and we began Facebook advertising with potential parents around our state to encourage them to apply for child support services. So next slide. Thank you. This is what some of our parents are saying. I think this is an important piece to be aware of and was very powerful. These are parents that have been participating in our 2-gen transformation efforts in our pilot county. Child support is for the child, but sometimes to do right by the child, you have to make sure the parents are okay. That was very powerful to us. And this second quote, I think refers to a lot of the child support professionals in our state. It feels like somebody who had dealt with the system, worked their way up, and then became in charge. Someone who knew the struggles, working on the obstacles. Child support was a very negative experience, and then this program is not a negative experience. I feel like you just want to work with me and help me out. So that's powerful messaging, and I think it is important that the child support program think about new ways of delivering our services, and I think we will benefit. I think our families that are due the child support will benefit, and certainly the parents with child support obligations will benefit. So I appreciate the opportunity for making this presentation. Thank you.
Larry, thank you very much. Who has questions for Larry, or what clarifications did you learn today from this presentation? I know that someone, Larry, I think it's Goodma, actually had heard of the 2-gen, so that was exciting to hear in the chat. Does anybody want to send any questions through the chat feature versus talking? We'd love questions. All right, well, I will take silence as nobody wants to share. So thank you so much. We will have Larry's, oh, hold on. Larry, Paula Burns asks, what kind of training did you provide staff to support the cultural change?
That's a very good question, because many of healthcare professionals, including myself, started in the program when this was not the philosophy. It was, enforced at all costs, and so it does require kind of a change in mindset. So with our 2-gen pilot counties, we paid for and arranged for motivational interview training, so that folks have kind of a different way of communicating with the parents and caretakers in our caseload. And the feedback we received from our county partners and also our state folks that have attended this have been very, very positive. So that's really been an important thing. And at our child support conferences that we have once a year, we talk about our 2-gen efforts. And a year or two ago, we actually brought in 3 different parents that had worked with their county child support offices to share their story, to share the impact that they had experienced because of we had worked with them, handled their case from their perspective. And I can tell you there was not a dry eye in the room when our folks, the 300 plus folks that were in that room, heard the messaging from fathers and the changed perspective, the changed difference it made in their lives and their children by the work that we're doing here in the state. So that's probably the best answer. Thank you.
Paula says that's fabulous, bringing in the parents. Do you have other outreach as well using their stories, or do you do other outreach as well?
We have something in Colorado. In child support, we're part of the Department of Human Services, and the Department of Human Services at state level has something called a Family Voice Council that any kind of policy change that child support or any program under the umbrella of Human Services is considering making, we go before the Family Voice Council to share the what and the why, and then to get feedback from the parents, the families, the community partners that are part of that. So that's been a key piece of what's really helped to inform our work as well.
Awesome. Larry, I had a question. Earlier in the presentation, you talked about the number of families that don't receive any money through child support. Have you seen income for them increase in any data yet? As far as
we are still, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's a great question. We're still looking at the analysis. One of the things that we've learned in Colorado, and I would encourage you to do the same thing in your state. The slide showed that we had 60,000 families that pay each month, and then 30,000 that don't. What we've learned is that every month, 10% of those payers, 6,000 folks, stop making their payment. So what we're hopeful with this 2-gen effort is going to do is lessen the length of time when a parent stops making their payment before we get them back on track. And what we're really trying to do is change the messaging so that the child support program is a program that parents come to instead of run away from. So we're continuing to assess. We're not getting soft on enforcement. We're just trying to get a little bit smarter in terms of using all of our enforcement tools on the right cases and providing opportunities for those that are willing but currently unable to pay to kind of enter into a plan with their child support worker assigned to their case. And if they don't adhere to that, we're going to have the enforcement remedies kicked back in. So that's just an important message that we've shared locally here in Colorado. And I think it's important to realize that we still do a lot of enforcement, but we're trying to do it on the right cases.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions for Larry at this time?
I have one question.
Great. Go ahead. What is your name?
Hi, I'm Greg Dusak from the Stockbridge Tribe in Wisconsin.
Hi, Greg.
Hi. So this is regarding the zero payer call-a-thon. Larry, did you have like a script you created and then you logged responses? And what topics did you cover when you called these individuals?
Yeah, Greg, that's a great question. We absolutely did. First of all, we developed the technology and the tools so that when we worked with our county partners for the call-a-thons, they knew the specific cases that weren't paying. They knew the cases that we had phone numbers. And Jesse Goodman, who was actually on the webinar here, was directly involved in providing training to all of our counties, making training available about that changed messaging. And Jesse, if you're still on, would you mind kind of just summarizing some of that, what that training looked like and the changed messaging?
Yeah. So what we did was we worked specifically with the counties that we kind of piloted this call-a-thon in and provided. It was actually a full 2-day training that we did with them. And the first day we really kind of talked about like the change in philosophy and what that meant and trying to get that initial kind of buy-in from everyone to understand why we wanted to move in that direction. It was a lot of work around creating those kind of scripts and role-playing situations and how to have those conversations back and forth when they were talking about, you know, I live in a rural county and we don't have public transportation, so I can't get to work, and how to engage in those kinds of conversations. And then, like Larry said, they also had I believe it was also 2 days for motivational interviewing before we did this. So we really tried to wrap it all around, not only in general with the motivational interviewing, but also like getting into the weeds with very common obstacles that we do here that prevent payment.
Well, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, Jesse. We also did have another question come in. It said that it was stated that the TANF funds were applied for. Who handled the funds for disbursement?
She's in,
Great question. In Colorado, it's
she's
kind
in,
of block grant dollars. We had to have the approval of the executive director of our Department of Human Services to make sure that this was something that they supported, our executive management team. The governor's office had to approve it. And then it was presented to the Joint Budget Committee of the legislature to make the case about why this funding is important, how it will be used. And then we get once it was approved by the General Assembly, we get an annual appropriation that we here at the Department of Human Services will manage. As I mentioned, that counties and community partners will have the opportunity to respond to a request for proposal, where they'll tell us how they would like to use the dollars to providing supportive resources, employment resources for parents in their caseload. So we're at the point right now where we're about to issue the RFP, and then counties and community partners can respond with their proposals. That'll be something that we will manage internally. As part of our budget request, we were able to get a full-time staff member to manage this work.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Larry, I'm hearing excellent presentation in the comments, so thank you very much.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
All right, well, it looks like no one else has any other questions. So Larry, again, thank you. We appreciate your presentation, and I think we have a lot of really good information to take away. Our resident legal consultant has been shaking her head a lot, so it was a great presentation. We really appreciate it. So we are going to move on to our next presenter, so I'll just take a moment to get that taken care of. Yeah. Let's see if... All right, Angela Braggs, coming to us from Iowa State University, is going to talk with us about a very exciting social experiment that we're going to be doing. Well, it's not an experiment, it's live.
Thanks, Sean. So some of you in the group may be familiar with the free kind of CSTP forum that was used previously to try to just continue the conversations that we have in these meetings and collaborate with each other. But there hasn't been a lot of traffic there. So we're going to try something new. We're going to phase out this forum. And as Sean mentioned, we have a LinkedIn group that is now live. So this will just be a place where workers like ourselves can share articles and ideas, where we can discuss, comment, and collaborate on different ideas that are shared there. If you're already on LinkedIn, as Sean mentioned, it's live. So you can do a quick search for our group. See if I can type it without, oops, jinxed myself. So you can search for Child Support Training Partnership. And when you click on that, it will bring you to the group. Because I'm one of the administrators, you're not going to see this button, but if you're new to the group, you will have a join group button in this group. And that's how you would request to join it. So if you're already on LinkedIn, you can search for it now. And just to kind of reassure you, all requests to join this group will be moderated and approved. So we shouldn't have people joining the group who are trying to sell things or spam you with different messages. Instead, this should just be a way to have conversations outside of these quarterly meetings on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop, when you have time or downtime to connect with other people like yourself and to participate. So once you join the group, if you look on the left side here, if you're members of other groups, you'll see those there as well as the most recent ones that you've connected to. So that's the quick way of how you can get to it on a desktop or laptop. If you're on a mobile device, you would click on your profile picture, and that's where your groups would show up if you want to go quickly back to see what kind of conversations are being had in the group. Once you go to the group, you'll see our conversations in the main area. So right now we've just got a welcome to everybody who decides to move forward and join our group. We talked about phasing out our old forum, but we have brought forward, in the right side, you'll see our mission and our purpose for this group, as well as different group rules that we had maintained in the forum as well. So we brought those forward, and most of those, still stand and aren't obsolete for this particular LinkedIn group. If you look at the top of our group, whether you're on mobile or on desktop or laptop, you can manage your notifications under the bell icon. This is where you can choose how frequently you see posts from this group. So you can get notified when all new posts are made. If this takes off and there's a lot of conversations in here, you may want to change it to either just showing highlights or only get notified when somebody tags you in a particular post. But that's how you can change how frequently you're being notified about posts in this group. You can also share this group. So you may be on this call, but there may be others in your office or co-workers in your network or folks who are either in child support or training or both, who might find the conversations here interesting or might have things to contribute to the wider group. So to share, you'd go under the little arrow, and then you can either share it in an individual post that you make, you can send it in a message, or you can just copy the link and share it through your work email. So that's how you can spread the word about our new LinkedIn group. We would encourage you after you join to feel free to share, to post articles, things, links of interest to you that you find interesting, or to put something out there and ask a question of others in the group. I would also encourage you to jump in and offer your feedback on what other people post. That's, this is a conversation, so it shouldn't be one-sided. Feel free to weigh in and agree, disagree, or offer, an alternative viewpoint on anything that somebody shares. We will be posting reminders about upcoming meetings. So our quarterly meetings, we may be prodding folks to remember to, if you have something to share and you want to present, you may see those posts occasionally as well. If we have something like that, we may recommend a post. So you can see all of the conversations down lower in your LinkedIn, but you can also click and you can see things that are recommended as well. If you aren't already on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to use this opportunity to check it out. Create a profile, join our group. You can use us as a testing ground if you haven't been in LinkedIn very much, or just you want to see what it's all about. Reach out. You can reach out to me personally if you need help with anything, and I can try to walk you through things, or we can share screens and troubleshoot any issues that you might be having with the group. You guys are lucky because you're on this call, so you kind of get a sneak peek that this is out there and available. We will be sharing it in the next newsletter in April, so it'll be shared with the larger group at that time, but feel free to join and start that conversation.
Great, Angela. Does anybody have any questions about our new LinkedIn group? This is Sean again. I know that someone is very, very excited about it. That would be Christy. Christy, thank you for your excitement. All of the effort for this goes to Angela. She built this page. She took the time to go through our old forum and bring over the information that we want to keep and share on the forum. So Angela, thank you very much for doing that. She's a powerhouse when it comes to social media, and somebody said they're surprised that she's doing it. That was a joke. So I'm going to go ahead and take over again, and we will finish out our meeting. While we're waiting, does anyone have any questions about anything that we've talked about today, whether it be Larry's presentation or anything before Larry presented? All right. Give me a moment here. All right, so I'm going to page down through our beautiful notes here. All right, so I just wanted to let everyone know, mark your calendars. Thursday, May 14th is our next meeting at 1 p.m. Central Time. I am really excited about that and looking forward to the spring weather that we'll be experiencing. However, my sinuses probably won't from the allergies. We are looking for presenters. I would appreciate it if there's someone out there who has something that you would like to share. As you can see, Larry took about 25 minutes to present his presentation, and I really appreciate the time that he took in order to do that. And so we love to hear from others. I like to talk, but I'd love to let other people talk too. So please, if there's something that you want to share and it's not 30 minutes or 25 minutes, if you just have a 10-minute presentation, we'll take it. So let me know how you would like to get involved, and we'll make sure that you're on the next presentation or even maybe our third quarter presentation based upon what your schedule looks like.
And our goal also on the LinkedIn group is to share presentations that different folks provide at these meetings. If it's a PowerPoint or a quick slide presentation, to include those on the page as well for those people who are unable to join or it's just bad timing for them in their day, so that some things are available there too, more in real time before you can go watch the recordings and look at the newsletters and things like that.
We do also have breaking news. ISU, in cooperation with the Child Support Recovery Unit that we work with, will be presenting at ERICSA, and our topic is going to be I'm a Trainer, what is your superpower? And we will have new business cards to present at the ERICSA conference. And so I'm excited to see the business cards, and I'm excited for the presentation that I'm a trainer, what's your superpower? I think I'd be Wonder Woman. That's what I want. I want that plane that's clear. I'm a goofball, sorry. Well, oh, I didn't mean to apologize. I'm a goofball. That's just the way it is. All right, so we are locking up here. That could be it. So we are actually done with our call today. I thank everyone for joining. Please, if you have a newsletter or a opportunity to present with our group, I would really appreciate that. You can contact us via email. We'll also have information on our CSTP forum and on LinkedIn. So please let us know if there's something that you would like to present or share with the group, and we would be happy to include you in our next quarterly call on May 14th. So thank you everyone for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
Participants, press 1 to The leader has ended the meeting. Goodbye.
It was dark.
So just so you know, what I'm doing for the newsletters this year is I am picking themes and soliciting people to write articles based on the themes.
Awesome.
So I've got the theme for the springs, and I've got already articles for spring. Oh, okay.